Hygiene into Europe. White people at that time in Spain, white Spanish Christians, seemed to believe that it was a sin to take a bath, that bathing was a form of vanity. And some of these folk prided themselves that they never bathed in their entire lives. Okay. So it would not be inaccurate to say that Africans taught white people to take a bath. Whether they did a good job or not, I don't know. Next. And this is a Moor in Prague in the Czech Republic from the 17th century. The word Moor means black. And the Moors are described as black as pitch, black as a raven, black as a crow, black as ink, nothing white about them but their teeth. And after Spain and Portugal, they dispersed over much of Europe, and some people say, and I'm sure they're correct, that many of them even came to America before Columbus. Now, this is from a book that I purchased in Prague in the Czech Republic. I went to Austria, and I had a free day. I could either go to Hungary or the Czech Republic. And I went to the Czech Republic, I went to Prague, and I didn't like it. First of all, it wasn't a place for an African to be. I think it was Muda Baruka said, it's not good to stay in a white man's country too long. It was a white country. A few Senegalese there trying to make a living. But it was not a comfortable place. People were not friendly. Now, in order to get there, you had to exchange a little money, $20, $25, and I had this money in my pocket, and I couldn't find anything to spend it on, so I bought a little book. And there were 6 people who left Vienna and went on this trip. I was the only brother. And there was a little Jewish lady in the car who never stopped talking, going or coming. When I put my headphones on, she was still talking. I could see her lips moving like that. So she said, what do you got there? And I said, well, I bought this book. What kind of book? And I said, it's a book. It's a book on the Czech Republic. Can I see it? Okay. She said, oh, I didn't buy anything like this. I said, what'd you bother me for? But I'm trying not to be nasty. And so I said, would you like to buy the book? I don't really want it, but I didn't want to just have this Czech krona. I said, okay. So we worked out a price. And so she's getting ready to put the book in her bag, in her purse. I said, but before you do it, let me just thumb through it. And I found this photograph and another one. And I said, well, I'm sorry, but I can't sell you this book. And this is a Moor in chains in the Czech Republic in the 17th century. Next. Here you have, this is an interesting one. This is a man named Abraham Hannibal. He is an African who ends up in Europe at the beginning of the 17th century. He is given as a gift to the Tsar or Kaiser or Emperor of Russia, Peter.I, who takes a liking towards his child. I would like to think it was innocent. He sends the precocious little boy, he sends the child to France for an education, and he becomes a general in the Russian army. Now, apparently he knew he was going to have a military career, because next, he adopted as his emblem, go to the next slide, an African elephant. Now, Peter gave him the name Petrovich, or son of Peter, which was the Russian tradition. But he took the name Hannibal, the most illustrious African military figure he could identify with. Now, that's got to be an African consciousness there. That was all the things he could have picked. He picked an African elephant and took the name Hannibal. Next. This is one of his children. Next. But the most famous of his ancestors or his descendants is Alexander Sergeyevich Pushkin, who became the father of Russian literature, who bragged about his African ancestry. He was always talking about his great-granddaddy. And he prided himself on that, on his African identity. He had a vocabulary of 20,000 words. He is the Russian equivalent to Shakespeare. Next. And then you see in his study is an image of a black man breaking the chains of slavery 200 years ago. He was anti-slavery. He was pro-African. Imagine that, the consciousness that these brothers must have had. You get my point? Next. This is a statue of Pushkin, next, black. And this is another statue of him in the city of, I think, St. Petersburg. He's called the Russian Atom, the Russian Springtime, next. Here's an interesting one also from Russia. This is St. George and the Dragon. Now, when I was in England, people told me, you know St. George was black, right? I said, sure, Send me a picture. And they sent me a picture. Now, I don't know, you see the dragon down there? You heard of St. George? St. George and the Dragon? There's the dragon. Now, I don't know if St. George is black or not, but I do know that the artist didn't have any problem painting that horse white. If he was trying, I mean, he didn't have a problem with the concept of the color white. And it seems to me he could have painted St. George the same way. Next. I thought you all would have thought that was humorous, but you did not. This is Ira Aldridge, the African-American Shakespearean actor who spent time in Russia. Next. This is, too late to laugh now. This is from the Capitolini Museum in Italy, in Rome. You have a black fertility figure that's there before the people called the Romans. Next. I'm trying to hurry up. This is the Black Virgin of Paris. This is an image of a black Madonna in a church, a small church behind a big cathedral on the outskirts of Paris. I got this the last time I was there. You see Jesus with the little frizzy afro. It's blonde, but it's frizzy. And what she's holding is the national symbol of France. This is called the Black Virgin of Paris, and it's the most important of the Madonna figures in France, at least in Paris. Next. This is another image in that book that the Jewish lady in the Czech Republic wanted to buy. And this is another black Madonna. Next. This is a cameo. I got this one in Austria. Next. This is an image of one of the three wise men. In the European Middle Ages, it was a popular thing to paint the youngest of the three wise men as an African. You can go to New York and go to the Bronx. This is in a museum called the Cloisters Collection, affiliated with the Metropolitan Museum of Art. That's my picture. Next. And here's a close-up. Next. Now, here's an interesting one. This one is also from England, and this brother's name is John Blanc. And this is a painting in the early part of the 16th century. This was the greatest trumpet player in Europe. He was the personal trumpet player of Henry VIII. And he won music awards in Westminster, England in 1511 AD. 500 years ago, you had a brother blowing people away with his trumpet in the UK. Before Miles Davis, before Lee Morgan, before Wynton Marsalis was a twinkle in anybody's eye. And there he is for you to see. Next. This is also in England. This is a black saint on the side of Westminster Abbey Cathedral. This lady is from Southern Africa. She was martyred for her faith in 1928. And this is a statue of a black saint on the side of Westminster Abbey in England. She looks like Angela Bassett. Next. The Chevalier de Saint George. This is a black composer. This brother is born in Guadeloupe in the Caribbean on Christmas Day, 1745. He is a fencer. You can see the sword in his hand. He is a violinist, a real ladies' man, they tell me. He died broke, I'm sad to say. There's a lesson to be learned from that, possibly. And he is a composer. He is sometimes called the Black Mozart. Next. These are black children in Wales. I always wanted to go to Wales, so I went. And these are black children. This is a postcard I got from like the 1930s in Wales. They're either from Guyana or Jamaica. But you have a lot of folk from the English-speaking Caribbean in that part of the world. Next. And then you have, this is an image I got in a museum, in the Liechtenstein Museum in Vienna, Austria. Next. From Holland. Next. Look at these statues. It looks like these people are alive. These are statues in 19th century Europe. Next. Look at that, sister. This is done about 1850. Next. Look at this brother. I know the ladies like that. Y'all ain't gonna say nothing, but I know you do. Next. And this is Mary Seacole. This sister's from Jamaica. She became a nurse. She worked with Florence Nightingale, but you never hear about her. From Jamaica, Mary Seacole, or perhaps it's pronounced Seacole, S-E-A-C-O-L-E. Next. From England. Next. This is the desk of Sigmund Freud in Vienna, Austria. Look at those Egyptian figurines up there. Freud was fascinated by Egypt, the so-called father of modern psychoanalysis. And one of his students actually went to Africa, a man named Carl Jung.